Hey there, this is Akshit Madan. Welcome back to a new video, and in this video we are going to cover provider state management. So I am getting a lot of requests of this video and also of block state management. So next video is block state management complete tutorial, and in this video we are going to cover provider state management. So what we are going to learn in this? So first of all, you should be clear with the concept of state management. So let me take 1 minute and explain you what state management is in simple terms, right? So let's say you are making this application. This is a counter application, right? And when you click on this plus, you can see that the counter is increasing, right? So you can understand that this is a state, the state of this variable, right? It's getting incremented, right? So when I go to the next page and come back, it should be maintained, right? It should not get refreshed. So in the same way, let's say if I give you a bigger example, let's say you are creating an e-commerce application, right? And you are adding some products in the cart, right? So some products are getting added in the cart, right? So there is some state of that cart that is maintained. So when you go to a product page, when you go to a different page, then it's not like that cart gets empty. It's not like that, right? It gets saved somewhere. It gets saved, right? So state is maintained. So this complete concept is called state management, where we are storing the current context, the current state of the mobile screen of the app in memory, right? So this is all called state management, right? So in like this was a very simple example that I gave you, and now we are going to make a simple application in this video, and that video is more than enough. This video is more than enough for you to understand or start using provider in your applications, right? And so what we are going to build today, let me explain it to you. So there will be a simple text at the top, and that text will be just a number, right? And below that there will be a list of numbers, right? And there will be a plus icon over here. So when I click on the plus icon, the last element of the list will get incremented and added in the list, right? So let's say currently at the top there is 0, and in the list also there is 0. As soon as I click on this plus, the 0 will add one more. In the list item there will be one more element getting added, that will be 1, and on the top the text will also get updated with the latest value of list, that will be 1, right? So let's start building it. I don't like talking much about what we are going to build. And also one more thing, don't code along with me, right? Please don't code along with me. First watch this video. If you want to make notes, please make notes, but code after watching this video completely, right? So you will be clear that what is your end goal and how you have to achieve that goal, right? So let's start building it without much talking and wasting time. So you can see that this is my simple. Let me clear everything. Let me clear the complete main.dart, and let me import material.dart here. Let's create a void main function here, and let's call run app new my app. That's great. Let's go to the next line and create a stateless widget called my app, and over here I'm going to return a material app. Perfect. Now I'm going to create one file called home.dart. In this also I'm going to create a stateless widget called home, and in the main.dart I'm going to call home. Perfect. And now let's go to home and return a scaffold, and in the scaffold I'm going to return an app bar. Let's save it. You can see the app bar on the right hand side. Let me return a body as a container in the container, and also let me have a floating action button. Perfect. What does it want? Okay, so let me return on press, and in this on press I'm going to currently have an empty function, and over here in the container I'm going to have a child with the column with children. My first children will be text. It will have 0. I'm having a static value, but I'm going to write the logic also. That's not a big problem. And over here in the next thing I'm going to have a list view dot builder, and item count, let's say for now 10. Item builder, let's define a context and an index, and I'm going to return a simple text over here. Let's say 1. What is the error? Context comma index. This is good. Okay, perfect. And let's have a semicolon, and this can become our sized box. This can become constant, and this, some people say that I ignore lints in my videos, so that's why I'm not ignoring lints. I'm adding I'm taking care of all the lints now, right? So future already completed. Okay, what is this? Null check over. Okay, let's see what is the error. Column children. Yeah, we need to wrap this list.builder with an expanded. That's good. Perfect. I can see. Let me increase the text size, so I can add a style, text style, font size 30, and also let me add the same text style to this one too. Okay, this I've added to this one. Perfect. You can see there is 0 and there is a list of some numbers, right? So now what I want to do is, as soon as I click on this plus, let me make this as plus, so it will have a child icon, icons.add. This will also become const. Perfect. So when I click on this plus icon, I want to update this list with one more item, or I want to append the latest value +1 in this list, and I want to update this text with the latest value of this list, or the last value of this list, right? So for now, let me create a I need to make it a stateful widget, because now we need to change the state. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to have a list of int, and this will be called numbers is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And let me have this 0 will become numbers dot last dot to string, right? This constant will be gone now, and this text style will have const now. Perfect. And now in the item dot in this list, I will also have an item count. So where is my item count? Yeah, over here. This will become numbers dot length, and this will have numbers at index. Const will be gone, const will be added over here, and this will become dot to string. Perfect. You can see 4 is the latest value, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let me do the project without using any state management, right? Without using provider, without using block, without using getX, anything, right? So to show you that what I want to build, and that same thing we are going to build using provider, and this video is going to clear all your basic doubts regarding provider. What is provider, how to use it, how to create provider files, how to manage consumers, what are consumers, everything will be clear, right? So don't worry. So in this on press, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to add set state. First of all, let's get the number, last number, right? So int last is equal to numbers dot last. Perfect. And set state will be numbers numbers dot add, and this value will be last +1. Perfect, right? So now let me save it, and when I click on this plus, you can see the top counter is also increasing, and my list is also getting appended perfectly, right? You can see. Okay, this is good, right? Now what I want to do is, let me create one more file now, right? So let me create one more file, and let's call this file as second.dart. Let's create a stateful widget over here. Now what I want to do is, I want this same list in the second page, but with a horizontal scroll view. Now tell me, how are you going to do it? Pause this video, think about it. I want to see your fundamentals, how strong they are, right? How will you do it? So I hope that you have tried it out. So one thing can be, you can pass the list from home.dart to the next page, right? Okay, you can pass the latest list. You can pass this numbers list from here to there. Let's do it. Let's not imagine that thing. Let's try to do it, right? So this can accept a final list of int numbers from there, and I can add parameter to the constructor, right? And let me take the UI scaffold to scaffold over here, and let me import material.dart. This will become widget dot numbers, right? Let me just do it. Okay, this is good. And this list view dot builder, where is it? Yeah, let me remove this thing, expand it, and let me make the scroll direction axis dot horizontal. Let me save it. In the home.dart, let me add a new button. So I can add an elevated button which will say navigator dot push, sorry, navigator dot of context dot push material page route. Context second. Perfect. Numbers I have passed. So let me show you, and this will have a simple text second. So now what we are done with, so this is my list, right? When I go to second, I can't see anything. Let me maintain. I guess the issue is we need to provide it, we need to wrap it with a container, and we need to give it a height of, let's say, 200, and width of, sorry, height is 200, width of double dot max finite. Perfect. So you can see it's happening. That's not an issue, right? So what is happening over here? I'm having this list. This list is passed to second, and I'm getting the same list. So if I just go to the previous screen, update this, go to second, I'm getting the updated list. That's not an issue. And if I just increment this, this is getting updated, not an issue. But when I get back, the state is not updated. Why? Because there I've just passed this list, the previous updated list, to the next screen, but there some things are happening, but my previous screen is not having any idea about what is happening there, right? So I'm cutting the state. I'm losing my state now. The state of this list is now not maintained, right? So this issue we need to handle using provider or block or getx or any other state management package that you want to use, right? This issue we need to resolve. So why are we having to list? Here you can see to list are there. Let's have one common file. Let's have one common list. Let's have one common add function to the list, and let's utilize that complete class everywhere throughout the app, right? That we can do. Let's do it. So first of all, I'll go to the pubspec.yaml. In my dependencies, I'm going to have provider, right? And let me just save it, and let me go to let's create a file. I'm not taking care of the project structure. I've already created 2 videos on how to maintain your project structure. You can watch it. You can create files as per that. But now let me create a file called list provider.dart, right? And now let me create a class list, numbers list provider, let's call it. Now one thing will come. This is not a normal class. This class is going to use inheritance and it is going to extend my change notifier class, right? So this is how we are calling we are calling a class called change notifier. We are extending it and then we are going to create our class. Why? Because I need a function. I need a function called notify listeners. I'm going to show you, don't worry about it, right? So here I'm going to in this class, I'm going to define my list. Let's do it. So I'm going to have, let me just copy it. Let's not waste time. Let me just copy this list, Control C, Control V. Perfect. And in the over here we wrote a function, right, to add the list element. Let's add it over here. So let's add a function called add, and this is not going to return anything. So void add, and this is not going to take anything. It will just take the last from there. So int last is equal to numbers dot last, and numbers dot add last plus 1. Till here I hope you have understood. I've not done any rocket science, right? I just created a class, I defined a list, I created a function. I'm not doing anything else, right? Now how will these two screens will listen to this provider class, will listen to this class, will take data from this class? How will that happen? So for that, first of all, what I need to do is I need to register this provider in my main.dart in my material app, right? So what I need to do is I need to wrap this thing with a multi-provider. I'm using multi-provider. You can use a single provider. I'm using multi-provider so that you can have multiple providers in your material app. You can wrap it with multiple providers, right? Because in real scenario, obviously you won't have just one provider, right? You will have multiple providers. So try to follow the same approach. You will never get stuck anywhere, right? So multi-provider, it takes a parameter, and the parameter is a child. So child we have already provided. So providers, and over here you can see it's a list. So today I created one provider, one class, but tomorrow you can have hundreds of provider classes. So that's why you need to have a list, and every provider you need to register it over here. Otherwise it will give you an error, right? So write change notifier provider and create takes a function. So it will take context, and you can define the name. So it was numbers list provider. Perfect. This is done. Perfect. This is done now, right? So we have registered our provider in the main.dart. Right now, let me take care of this thing also. Define it as constant. This new will, okay, what is this? Okay, constant new is not required. Perfect. So this is done. Yes. Now we can start utilizing that over here. So let me just refresh the app. Perfect. There is no error in the console. Now let's go to home.dart, and how can I utilize it? So let me just remove these functions. Let me just remove this list. Let's do everything from the scratch. And okay, this is good. Text is over here. Perfect. Now there is no issue. I guess we can start with implementing the provider. So to utilize that list providers, utilize this list and this function, we need to wrap our widget with a widget called consumer, right? So let's wrap this body so that I can have instance of that model in my whole screen, in my whole widget. So let's wrap it with a widget called consumer. Now in this consumer, you also need to define the type of this consumer. So type will be your provider name. So it will be numbers list provider, and let's just import it. Okay, this is done. And this will not have a child. This will have a builder, right? It will have context, value, and child. So let me just write it like this. Perfect. And this will have one more, this closing bracket. This value, you can give any name. So this will act as your model, right? So I'm calling it as numbers provider model, right? Now using this numbers provider model, I can access the this variable list, this function of this class, right? Let me show you how. So I am having numbers provider model. Let me just copy it. Let me just paste it. Dot numbers. You can see it is solved. So using this numbers provider model, I'm accessing the numbers list, getting the last dot to string. Perfect. Let me do the same thing over here, over here. Perfect. Now one more error is there. Let's see. Okay, over here. So now, yeah, now I don't need to pass the numbers list also. I don't need to pass anything. This second will also listen to that same class. So let me just remove it now over here. So let me just remove the constructor also. Not the constructor, the parameter in the constructor. Okay, now this numbers we can remove from here, and let's define the second as const, this text as constant. Let's go to second. Let's do the same thing. Let me remove this on press functionality. We are going to access the function from that provider class. Wrap the body with a consumer. Numbers list provider. Child will have and obviously I'm going to provide you the code, so don't worry about that. Let's call it numbers list provider and small n, and let's replace this widget dot will be gone now. So you can see using this provider, we don't need to actually pass any parameter to the constructor. That's also a very good thing, right? So let me just copy it. Let me just paste it. One error is there. Yeah, we need to close the bracket. Perfect. Now, one thing that we're missing is in the floating action button, we need to define a function also. So that function also, okay, that's a problem now. Actually, we wrap the body with the consumer. Actually, we need to wrap the scaffold because so that we can have the access to this function. Now, so let me just remove this thing from here. Control X. Let me wrap it over here, and this will do something like this. Yeah, it's done. So now this is done. So I have wrapped my scaffold with the consumer, and now I can access numbers provider model dot add functionality. I will do the same thing on my second dot, right? You can see, let me just remove my this thing from here, and let me do it on scaffold so that I can access the function. Yes, this is good. And over here I can say numbers list provider dot add, save it. Let's refresh the app. Let's see the magic of provider now, right? So my app is refreshed and 1 2 3 4 is there because I already defined it over here. Let me just add some value. Nothing is happening. Obviously at the first time we computer engineers have to face some defeat. Now we are going to see why it is not happening, right? I know the solution. Can you think of it? Can you think of it? You can pause the video. If you know some things about provider, you will get it. The missing part is in this file. We are missing notify listeners. So what is this notify listeners? So notify listeners, what is going to do is, as the name defines, notify. So whichever widget is listening to this class, in our case it is home.dart, scaffold widget, complete scaffold widget is listening to this class. And in the second dot also scaffold widget is listening to this class. Whenever there is a change, in the values of the variables of this list of this file, it is going to notify the listeners. It is going to notify those consumer widgets, right? Or basically you can say that whenever this function is called, right, it is at the end, it is going to notify those consumers, right? So that's a consumer, like ears, right? Consumers, it is going to consume some state, consume some value, and notify listeners, like it is going to notify it, right? So consumers and notify listeners, right? There's a mixture. Perfect. So now we have added notify listeners. Let me just refresh it, and I hope nothing breaks. So let me just refresh it again. Yeah, this is good. You can see it is happening. You can see it is running perfectly. I go to the next screen. It is running perfectly. I add some values here. It is running perfectly. I get back, it is updated. The problem that we faced using set states is solved now using provider. You can see the magic, right? Now think about it as a card screen, right? So this is a products page. You added some products on wish list. Now when you go to the cart, those products should be in the wish list. If you remove some product from the wish list from the cart screen, when you get back, it should be removed on the previous screen also, right? So there, state management is going to play a very critical role. And now you have this weapon, right? You can do it using provider. I hope you like this video. If you have any doubts, reach out to me. Mostly in all the apps, these consumers notify listeners and this creating a class, wrapping main.dart material app with multi-provider is going to solve 99% of the cases. In that 1%, you have to just search on Stack Overflow or Google, you will get your answer. Or you can reach out to me. But I suggest that before reaching out to me, try to find a solution, because if you directly reach out to some people, you will never get this talent of actually solving the errors on your own, right? So I hope you like this video. Till the next part, or not, there is no part of this. Till the next video of block state management. Keep coding, keep innovating, and thanks a lot.